This is Kugan Cassius for Wrathful TV with the Matchroom headquarters here for our Christmas end of season.
What people don't know is just before we started rolling, he put his questions down there, and he went, stop it.
Well, you said you didn't want to see him.
It's Christmas Eve. It's 1:45. I've come up with a conclusion: we're either mad or we have zero life.
I didn't think, to be honest, I had things to do today. I didn't think you'd have the time to do this on Christmas Eve.
Got no life, have we?
You got a family.
I've been Christmas shopping.
Where did you do your Christmas shopping?
Just trying to get a few bits in Brentwood that weren't really happening. I bought a Dyson Hoover. How much? Dyson Hoover.
For who? Don't say for your wife.
For the missus, yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, because do you know what? I bought her other stuff, obviously, but today she went, do you know what I really need? A portable Hoover. You know, like, right, it's about that big, and you can hold it like a metal detector, or take the thing off, and apparently it's unbelievable. How much?
Go on. Monkey?
300 quid.
300 quid?
Monkey?
Well, a Dyson, I don't know.
I thought it was outrageous.
Right.
I think I've only got a pair of pants and a pair of socks.
What do people buy you anyway? It's hard to buy for you, I suppose, isn't it?
I've got kids now, and so it's really about the kids. When when you're younger and you're sitting around the tree and all the old ones are getting pants and socks, I want pants and socks. I love like high quality pants.
Yeah,
Spend a lot of money on pants.
People through this, don't they? You like them simple pleasures.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, crack on. We've got a lot.
But hold on a minute. What we haven't declared or decided is, does any of these people win anything?
What about they get to sit front row
Right.
at our next show with me?
What? How many are you picking?
Obviously, like 2 people. So, 2. Does one person get 2 tickets, or does 2 people get 2 tickets? That'd be 4 in total. Tell you what I'll do. Every time there's a good question, you can mark it off, and we'll give them tickets. And when there's a really good one person will win 2 front row tickets sitting next to me for the next show in Cardiff. All right. And the good ones will win tickets anyway.
Okay. Right, let's start.
Revolutionary, that is.
That is. William A. This is quite an easy one, to be honest, just to get us settled in. With all the corruption and match fixing allegations going on in sport right now, do you think this is a concern in boxing, and how do you respond to certain social media outlets claiming that you and your organisation are involved in this with recent decisions and scorings on your show, i.e. Burns, Beltran and Froch Groves?
Well, where do you start? It's concerning that some people actually think it goes on, and I'm not an idiot to say that it obviously goes on in sport, because we've seen it. You know, we've seen the football stuff come out recently, even the snooker stuff, which we're involved with, you know, running the governing body, where match fixing has been exposed. Every other sport, like tennis in its time, and etc., etc. It worries me in football, the levels that, you know, and the quality of the players that are involved, that stuff goes on. For match fixing to take place, really, there has to be an end product or an end reason, which is essentially money. Now, for football, you're talking about huge volumes of betting markets for throw-ins, for sendings off, for bookings, etc., etc. But for boxing, if you're talking about someone taking a dive in a round or something like that, then there's going to be a lot of money on that round. In snooker, it's a bit similar to a frame. If all of a sudden there's a lot of money or volume going on a certain frame, we will get a call immediately from Betfair, Betfred, whoever, to say, look, we have to tell you here, we've had an extraordinary amount of money on this specific round. And on round betting and frame betting, the volumes are so small that if it was hooky or it was dodgy, then it would be flagged up immediately. So I don't think that goes on. And to be honest with you, the whole idea about bunging the judges or having a little word with the referee, I've never been, you know, for all the time I've been involved in boxing, I've never seen any of that go on, home or away. Obviously from us, and obviously even when we're away. It's got a reputation for that, and I don't know whether it's poor judging, poor officiating. I mean, we've seen it, you know, and you go through if you actually magnify the situations that this man is probably referring to, there's two things that happened in this year, in my opinion, on our shows that were really controversial. One was the Froch Grove stoppage, okay, which some are saying, actually interestingly now, I don't know if you agree, that it was okay the longer it goes on, and some quite high profile people in the sport, the majority saying it certainly wasn't. I felt it was too early as well. For a referee to jump in early, I've never really, for me that's just his instant decision. The judging is another thing altogether. The judging on the Ricky Burns fight was very poor. I had Burns 2 or 3 rounds down in that fight. One gave it a draw and one gave it 3 rounds to Burns. Now all I can tell you is that this is a guy who I've never met before in my life, and what people have got to understand is we don't appoint the judges and the officials. If it's a world title fight, it's those people are selected through the governing body, the WBO for example, and the commission, which is the British Boxing Board of Control. So you get a lot of people on Twitter which is frustrating, saying, oh, these refs you've got. It's like, no, don't understand. We don't get involved with that at all. So people who aren't aware of the actual, all the shit I've got about it is from non-boxing fans, or casual boxing fans who don't really understand the system. The normal shit I get from people who are proper boxing fans or hardcore boxing fans, they know that actually it doesn't really work like this. So in answer to your question, you can never rule out corruption in any sport, in my opinion. As close as I am, which is probably as close as you can possibly be to this sport, I've certainly never seen it. And I don't think there's the volumes within the markets to justify match fixing or round betting or anything like that. So, and actually, I do think the people in boxing are, there's a huge amount of integrity amongst the fighters, and I certainly, if you said to me, is there any fighter out there that you could say, it's unthinkable, take a dive in round 4 and I'll give you 10 grand. Honestly don't know one. Certainly none that we look after, because they're all at a level where they don't make 10 or 20 grand, they want to make millions. So I'm not aware of any corruptions, but bad judging, yes. And is it a case of he's the champion, so subconsciously I might favour him, or he's the home fighter? And you see, like in the Barker Stern fight, in that first round, I'm thinking that's quite a close round. I'd give it to Stern actually, but because of the noise, I was thinking, I know they've all given it because I was there and the intensity, and you end up thinking like he'll throw a shot and the crowd will go mad, and then Barker will throw one just as good and there'll be no noise. But I'm not sure a lot of the judges take that into consideration sometimes. The very good ones probably do, but I think it's more poor officiating rather than any kind of corruption in boxing. And people should really put their mind at rest that I've never seen anything like that before, and I don't believe anyone has if you ask people within boxing. That was about 10 minutes for one question. Okay. But it's an important question.
Okay. Ryan Smith, you thought about a Matchroom lightweight tournament winner to face Ricky Burns if he was still champ? Even if he isn't, the winner would likely to be in a great position moving forward.
Yeah. It's difficult, and I'll be really honest, and because I'm going to be really honest today, and I'm not going to hold back. The problem you got is where I've signed a lot of lightweight fighters, I'm trying to tee up those big fights, but I'm also trying to get them in positions for those fights to be worthy and relevant. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm. So for instance, I would like to make Tommy Coyle against Kevin Mitchell for an IBF final eliminator, or eliminator for the world title. But if I match them now, I don't really feel as though it would be I'd be justifying my job as their promoters. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm. And that might not always be the greatest news for fans, because but we just want to see him fight. But they've got to also understand they've got to fight for something. That's a fight where both fighters are putting a big chunk of their career on the line and their future on the line. So it's got to be for something. And I don't think that just an intercontinental title would justify a fight like that. So I have to build different fighters into different positions. A bit like Crawler, Crawler for me, verge of a world title fight. So we want a fight to move in that direction. Gavin Rees, a little bit easier. He's lost a fight to Crawler, so he's really up for fighting anyone. Now he'll fight Buckland. But the guys like Mitchell and Coyle, for example, they're sort of on runs and they're on the verge of that world title shot, and I think there needs to be something on the line for that to happen.
Okay. Platinum Boxing. There's a rumour going around on Twitter that Sean Porter and his father have asked Schaefer that they want a unification fight with Maidana. Is there any truth in that, and where does that leave Kilbrook?
That's fine. But new champion, a one-off time, he gets 6 months till he has to face Kell Brook. So you're looking at June. He can do anything he wants in between that, as long as he fights Kell within that time frame. So if he wants a unification fight, that's not a problem. What won't happen is the winner won't then get 6 months. Both fighters will have to go into that fight agreeing the winner has to fight Kell Brook.
Is that a rumour? Is that true? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, for me, the way Devon Alexander and Al Heyman work, if they've had a voluntary defence against Sean Porter, they'll have a rematch clause. They should do, and I'm certain they would. So maybe Alexander will be calling for that rematch. Maybe Porter wants to fight Maidana. I think Porter will fight in February or March, and I have to look at potentially getting Kell out in that period as well. I'm not sure.
Okay. Richard Reynolds, what's the chances of Quigg and Frampton getting on in 2014? It has to be the next biggest domestic fight after Froch and Groves.
I made Barry McGuigan a huge offer. I didn't hear back, and then I made him another offer, which was bigger, and then I heard back, and we plan to meet up over the next couple of weeks and have a sit down and a chat. Carl Frampton will fight. He's up for fighting Scott Quigg, and Scott Quigg is up for fighting Carl Frampton. It's really about money. It's about ego. It's about splits. It's about one is a world champion and one isn't. And now you've got the interesting dynamic of Kiko Martinez coming in. So we're speaking to Gary Shaw and Sampson and Maravilla, who are effectively the three partners behind Kiko, and Barry McGuigan is as well. So the difference is one's a unification fight and one's a voluntary defence, which will require options for Frampton to fight Kiko, and I'm not sure Barry and Carl will give options. If they want to be the mandatory, they have to fight a final eliminator, which they could do in March, April or something like that, and then fight Kiko in September, October. But in answer to the question about Frampton Quigg, will it happen in 2014? Back end. I can't see it happening Quigg plans to fight in April, Martinez or not, and then again probably in September, October. So I don't know. I think that he's right. It's a huge fight, and I hope it does get made. And again, I believe both fighters want the fight, so I don't see why not.
Okay. Amy from Birmingham, Eddie, why you never put any shows on in Birmingham, and why is it always the same old places you put them on in?
Well, it's not always the same old places. I mean, we've just started going to Hull, and we're going back there. Obviously, we're going to Wales for the first time in a long time. We've got to go to places that works. We get 20 shows a year to make it happen, and if we go to a show and it doesn't happen, and by making it happen, I'm talking about financially making it happen, atmosphere, and if we make a mistake, we've lost 1/20th. So the reason we haven't gone to Birmingham yet is we don't have a headline act in Birmingham yet that I feel as I could base a show around. Carrie Afai is one for the future there, and yeah, we can bring another fighter to Birmingham, whether it's Kell Brook or someone like that. But for right now, we have to focus on the cities where we have the headline acts, and of course that is Liverpool, Manchester, London, Scotland, Wales, Hull. It's just commercially it makes sense, and I'm up for taking chances. I would like to go to Birmingham. I'd like to go to Newcastle. These are all areas that even down in Portsmouth, there's a good boxing following down there. So I do have plans to visit those cities, but we've got to make it work.
Okay. Rico Albertelli. It's been a great year for Cole Froch, but Eddie, do you feel he's being unfairly treated by a number of people over the Groves fight? He seems to get blamed for the slightly early stoppage when people should be focusing on the bravery it took to get back in the fight.
Yeah, I think he's got a point. I mean, there's two things. Cole was booed straight after the fight, but then he was booed even more after his comments. He didn't speak well after the fight. I mean, that's the bottom line. What he should have said, if you're being really PR savvy and particular, is, wow, George, you can fight. I underestimated you. What a great fighter you are. I felt as though I was coming back into fight. I felt as though I was going to stop you, but I take my hat off to you and let's do it again. But when you've been in a war for 9 rounds and there's a lot of bad feeling floating around in the ring and there was pushing and shoving and all this kind of stuff, it's very difficult to sit down when you've got a camera shoved under your nose and say the right things, you know, and it's difficult to say what you really feel at that moment as well, because the testosterone levels are going through the roof. So I feel a bit sorry for him, and not many do, because he found a way back into the fight, you know, from really being out of the fight. But you know, he probably said a few things he shouldn't have after the fight, and you know, people will judge him on that. But you know, in 30 minutes in a stadium, people went from cheering Carl Froch to booing Carl Froch. So if that took 30 minutes, I'm sure with the type of person he is and for everything he's given to the sport, I'm sure he can turn those boos back into cheers.
Okay. Ian Matthias. How would a young up-and-coming promoter go about making it a success?
For me, everything is built off a budget. And by budget doesn't mean that as in save money on shows, it means financial planning. And obviously my old man's a chartered accountant, and that's something that he's instilled in me. So many promoters do shows without even planning them financially and end up miles behind, not paying fighters. They're a mess, you know. So for us, every show is a different project. Every show has a budget. There's a huge amount of financial planning goes into every show. And that way you always know where you stand. You know what your income is, you know what your expenditure is, you know what your purses is. Yeah, you've got to speculate on the gate, but through being in these cities through various times, you know roughly what you're going to do. And then, you know, I think that's the key for any young promoter is effective financial planning for their show. I know it's boring, and I know, you know, they might want to hear, yeah, just roll the dice and go for it, but we don't work like that. It's very difficult, and you know, some things that people always tell me is, oh yeah, but you've got the TV money. You know, I think sometimes it's even more difficult because we're under pressure from Sky and the public to deliver stacked deep cards, of which we do in abundance. And when you look at some of the old stuff that other promoters were doing and we were doing, it was absolute tosh. And what we're doing now is on another level, but if it doesn't work and it doesn't sell, then financially you're at risk. And people don't see that. People just see, oh, he's got all the dates, he must be making a few quid. Not true. You know, some shows you do very well on, some shows you don't do very well on. But it's a cutthroat business and it's very, very, very difficult. But there is a huge amount of pleasure at times.
Okay. Henry Clarkson. Illegal use of performance-enhancing drugs appears to be on the increase in boxing. What are Eddie's thoughts on this, and does Matchroom take any additional actions to ensure fighters are clean?
I think this is a good point. So you can give him some tickets. I think this is something that I've been thinking about quite a lot lately. Again, dealing with the fighters that we deal with, I can't think that any of them are going to use performance-enhancing drugs. I would never rule it out because I'm not that naive and stupid. You know, I remember I used to work in a sports management company, and there was an athletics division, and they represented Dwayne Chambers. And I knew Dwayne quite well. And when that whole thing came out about the drugs and Dwayne Chambers, I thought, no way. And you know, things happen and people take wrong paths in life. But Lance Armstrong, I mean, through reading his books, I would have swore blind he was clean. But everyone always said, no, you know. So I think as well in boxing, you're not talking about cycling up a mountain, you're not talking about sprinting to the end of 100 metres, you're talking about fighting another man. And if you're cheating and you're using performance enhancing drugs, that is, in my opinion, I mean, it's ultra criminal. You know, it's not just about cheating in the sport, it's about putting another man's life at risk. And I'm happy. Another problem that you got, and I don't know enough about this, is, you know, all championship fights for us will be tested. Yeah, everyone will be tested on the night. But there's so many masking agents and ways to cheat this, that just having a drugs test on the night doesn't really mean anything. Do you know what I mean? If you're cheating and you're cheating, you know, efficiently, and you're cheating with experts, they'll know how to make sure you pass that test. But what have you been doing on your training? You know, and when we had quite an interesting situation recently where Tony Bellew fought Adonis Stevenson, where ourselves, Tony, Adonis and his team employed a drug testing agency, a separate agency, to come in and test bloods from like 10 days out from the fight. Bloods, urine, but, you know, all throughout that week. So, but the one thing over here which I think is brilliant and is imperative to stopping drug cheats is the random testing. So any fighter can be random tested at any time, funnily enough, randomly. And literally they'll come around your house at 6 or 7 in the morning, knock on the door, and they won't go until you give them a sample. And that's in camp, out of camp, it's just totally random. And that's the way that you catch drug cheats. You know what I mean? So, and that happens a lot. A lot of our guys have been random tested. Froch was done, I think, twice. At like 6 in the morning, guy banging on his door, you know, with a sign. And that is brilliant.
What happens if you didn't answer the door?
They'll wait and they'll go to another address. And I mean, they don't go away. But that is the way. That's brilliant. Random testing, for me, is key. And that they need to look at that in America. I don't know the ins and outs of the system in America, but I don't believe fighters are randomly tested in America. Unless they volunteer to be.
Okay. Aaron Clark, is there any more on the show you were planning for Dublin between Lee and Macklin? There's huge interest in this fight over here. Plus, will you bring Callum Smith over too?
Yeah, I mean, Lee Macklin, obviously they're both with DeBella and I deal closely with DeBella. It's been discussed. I still think it's a fight that can happen, but like the lightweight division, everyone has their aspirations. So Andy Lee and Matthew Macklin, their aspirations right now is probably to fight Felix Stern, you know. So if that fight doesn't happen with either of them, I believe that the Macklin-Lee fight can. Whether it'll happen in Dublin or whether it'll happen in New York is really down to the broadcasters and the punt that Lou and maybe us or Lou and whoever takes with regards to the gate. I think it's a great fight. Does it sell massive? Again, it's a punt. I have no idea about the boxing market in Dublin. People tell me it will do well, and no disrespect to that gentleman, I can't base a huge financial decision and risk on him telling me that there's a lot of interest out there. So at times you have to take punts. It's a punt I'd be willing to take because I like the fight. But again, there's a lot happening with the whole Barker, Murray, Macklin, Lee, you know, triangle at the moment, and I guess that will be resolved soon. And when it is, maybe you'll get some domestic fights too.
Okay. Ding Wigzell, if you could create the ultimate boxer using qualities and physical attributes from your matchroom fighters, what would you use and what weight would you place him?
That's a good question. You give him tickets. I'll ignore the weight. I'd say give him Kell Brook's jab. I think he's got a fantastic jab. Give him Carl Froch's tenacity and chin. Give him Lee Selby's swag. Give him Tony Bellew's personality and mouth, because he's fantastic. Give him give him Luke Campbell's dedication and work ethic.
Who's punch power?
Callum Smith. Anthony Joshua. Yeah, it's a good question.
Okay. Liam Skinner, what's the best ring walk you've ever seen in boxing?
I mean, back in the day, when I used to go to the shows that my old man was doing, like Eubank coming out on the Harley, and I remember Naz coming in on the flying carpet when he fought Barrera. That was probably, I was there for that fight, and that was special, you know. I remember they did one once where, I don't know, Naz didn't come out on the carpet for the Barrera fight, did he? Come out on the rings, a bit weird. But he come out on the carpet for a fight in the UK.
What fight was that? The carpet.
I can't remember, but he also, you know, it was a good one once, was that, do you remember the Naz impersonators? So some guy come out in the leopard print, started doing all this, and everyone went mad, and then a light flashed up to an exit up there, and he was doing that. There's about 10 of them. It used to be about, I mean, I remember that was the big thing, the walkout, wasn't it? And it's something that I don't think that ourselves and Sky really make the most of now, because that is what it used to be about. It used to be about the show and the walkout. The fights were shit, you know, and I think that's where the fans' perception and the fans' demands have changed. It's not just about going that everyone wants so much for their money now, you know. They want a great walkout, they want a great fight, they want a great card. Nothing wrong with that, they just want value for money. But back in those days, it was about, oh, look at Eubank, and who's he fighting? Who's this guy? Do you know what I mean? And maybe that's because you had superstars in the game there that perhaps you haven't got now, or to that level, you know, where people would just go to watch Eubank walk out simply the best. That doesn't happen now.
Did you ever see the ring walk Anthony Small did against Sam?
Yeah.
Where he come out, well, it wasn't him actually, a man walked out as a scream geezer. Yeah. So he's walked out, and then as he got in the ring, then he done his thing.
Saw him the other day.
Yeah. Christopher Smith, question for Eddie, who is the most rascal fighter you've ever promoted?
Rascal fighter? In what sense?
I don't know, it's just a question.
Rascal? Who has got the worst clobber?
Cardle's got to be in there, hasn't he?
Cardle's got some Larry clobber, hasn't he? How's Vivian Westwood slip-ons? What all that about? I was out with Callum Smith last night at the darts. He used to be all about the sportswear, a little bit of Adidas. Last night I saw him, Dior Polo, Lon Van trainers, boys getting paid too much money, you know. But I think a lot of the Matchroom boys have got some decent swag.
Alright, Tom B. Rose. I think this is the guy that was been tweeting me recently. The financial climate.
You've been getting a bit of stick.
Because I didn't go to the show on Saturday.
Well, they should pay for you to go.
Well,
if people don't see the value of spending 400 or 500 quid, or probably less.
It's just before Christmas.
Yeah, but you can't be expected. Listen,
to go.
The reason I pay for you to go to shows is not because I like you and you're alright, don't get me wrong. It's because I get value. That's the bottom line. And if promoters don't want to spend a couple of hundred quid getting the same value, fucking good luck. Good luck to us. Anyway,
the financial climate is tough. You are only allowed to keep one fighter from your stable. Who do you keep?
No. Obviously Froch, because he's the one making the most money. If the financial
could you really say Froch? Because how many fights?
I don't know, but I'm just saying that at the moment now, he's our biggest earner, so to speak. So you'd have to look at the future. You'd have to look at Callum, you know, Joshua, Campbell. You know, and probably Joshua is in a division where if he cracks it like we think he's going to crack it, then, you know, financially the world is his oyster. Be unbearable, wouldn't it, Joshua? Imagine.
Yeah, no. Lee Keevan, do you still regard Carl Froch as Matchroom's best fighter, and do you think he would have beaten George Groves even if the ref didn't stop it?
If you want me to be brutally honest, I believe he would have beaten George Groves if the ref. I mean, because I think the ref, if it wasn't then, it was 5 or 10 seconds later, and he was finding a way back into the fight. And I know what he's like in that position. That said, I think they were both unfortunate because Carl never got a chance to prove that, and George never got a chance to prove whether he would have toughed it out or survived, whatever. So, I know I'll get a lot of stick for being a Carl Froch friend, but I do have a huge amount of admiration for Carl Froch. I think the fights that he's been in, incredible, and I have a lot of admiration for George Groves because I think he's a brilliant fighter, But there's so many Matchroom fighters that we've got that interest me in so many different levels. Kell Brook for me is perhaps one of the most talented, but he is hard work. But I enjoy that. It's part of the challenge, and I don't feel that. I think that if you're a genius at something, you are hard work. And I've never been involved with a sport where I've represented someone who was brilliant, who wasn't a pain in the arse, because it just doesn't work like that.
Would you say I was hard work?
Yeah, but you're not a genius, are you? But you're not a genius. I'm not a genius. We haven't got skills that, for me, I'm lucky to have been around the business and a business where really I feel as though I'm pretty good at what I do, and you're pretty good at what you do, which is interview people. We're not geniuses, are we? We're both the wrong side of skinny. We both mope around a little bit. We work hard, but we're easy to get along with. Geniuses, and I'm talking about Einstein, I'm talking about Michelangelo, I'm talking about these. They're all just a little bit, not all there.
Well,
and Kell Brook's another one.
I'll see what you're saying. Dave Short, Eddie, if you could set up a tag team style fight, British versus the rest of the world, current fighters anyway, who would you pair together? I was talking to James Helder about this the other day about tag teams actually, that's why I put this one in there. But
I just pictured you and Helder sitting there like, we were. Oh, so who would you have then? Oh.
No, but
that was Helder.
Two fighters, obviously from
so how does it work? What, when do you tag in? After the round?
No, you can tag in
time.
In between the rounds. You can tag in. So say,
for example, prize fighter. Do you think I should bring this one in?
For example, right?
Tag team prize fighter.
Yeah, well, for example, you'd have say you did a lightweight one, right? So say you had Mitchell and Bones versus Crawler and Coyle, for example. So you have say 6 rounds. In between the rounds, if they're getting a bit of a pasting, as long as they can make it to the other side of the thing where their partner is, they can touch glove, come in and...
Can we move on from this question?
What?
I mean, tag team boxing.
Yeah.
You actually...
I think that could be the new prize fighter.
Can you imagine the stick I'd get? I mean, I'm borderline quitting Twitter as it is. I mean, that would just send me over the edge.
Alright, sorry Dave, I thought it was a good question.
Yeah, cheers Dave.
Mitesh Patel, of all the fighters signed to Matchroom, which ones, in your opinion, could eventually make the top 10 pound for pound fighters list in the world?
Well, Carl Froch just made the top 10 pound for pound list.
Okay.
That's a list that, there's no shame in not making it. I believe Kell Brook can get there. I think Lee Selby, I think Lee Selby's a great talent. I think Joshua can get there. I think Campbell can get there. And we've got so many. You don't know, you look at someone like I don't know, Scott Quigg, Brian Rose. These are fighters that, until they're tested at the very top end, you don't know how good they're going to be. Scott Quigg is an incredible talent, but can he be great? And we'll find out when he fights. No disrespect to Carl Frampton, but we'll find out when we're talking when he fights the Rigondeaux of this world. And at the moment, that's not a fight that is even under consideration. And people ask me, why doesn't Scott Quigg fight Rigondeaux? Because he's too good. Oh, what do you want me to say?
Yeah, but is there an argument that he's got the regular version of the belt? But at
the end of the day, Scott Quigg is world champion, right? Yeah. Whether you like it or not. He's not the unified super champion, he's the world champion, right? Some may say rightfully, some may say wrongfully. For me, he got the opportunity against Salinas. By the way, and I got to tell you, Salinas is a quality fighter. Speak to anyone in the sport in America, they will tell you the kid as an amateur in Cuba was phenomenal. Even as a pro, highly regarded as a fighter. I felt Quigg won that fight, he ended up getting a draw anyway. But for me, why fight Rigondeaux when there's no money in the fight? Do you know what I mean? If that fight presents itself with an absolute fortune for Scott Quigg, then maybe we'd look at it. But there's no money in fighting Rigondeaux, and that's a shame because Rigondeaux is phenomenal, but the public aren't embracing Rigondeaux because of his start. The hardcore fan thinks Rigondeaux is incredible, but unfortunately he's not grabbing the attention of the public.
Okay. Sam Bellamy, what happened to you promoting Paul McCloskey?
Very simple. We had a little bit of a falling out. He didn't turn up at a press conference, and it was okay. I mean, I got a lot of time for Paul McCloskey. His father-in-law, Francie, promotes him. He was due to fight. He fought in September against that Perez, and he won the WBA. Then he was due to fight in February on the Frampton against Kiko Bill. He had a few issues, and he had a couple of injuries, so he was out. Then, with everything happening with Frampton, we weren't coming back to Belfast. So I gave Paul McCloskey the opportunity to fight in June in Hull against Curtis Woodhouse. The reason that fight appealed to me was Curtis Woodhouse sells tickets in Hull. I think it's quite a good fight. It's one that I felt McCloskey could win. Keeps him ticking over. He's got a family to feed, keeps the money in the bank. And he wasn't happy with that fight. So he turned it down. And then, 5 months later he still hasn't fought, and he boxed Dave Ryan, who I think McCloskey, Woodhouse has beat, and lost on points. So listen, I mean, I don't know. I mean, sometimes people get bad advice, and to be honest with you, I didn't really want to put him on in Hull, because I would have paid him well, and financially the fight would have lost me money. But I wanted to give him a fight. I wanted to make sure he could earn some money. And he wanted to look elsewhere, and he did. And I don't really speak to him. We didn't have a contract with McCloskey. It was fight by fight stuff. So we present every opportunity to him. We had some great nights. The Prescott night was a really good night. Obviously, Khan and the other guy was disappointing. Can't remember his name now. DeMarcus Corley. But I wish him all the best in whatever he does. I think he'll probably call it a day now. But I haven't seen the fight. Apparently it was a tight decision. But he should be beating people like Dave Ryan. I mean, no disrespect to Dave Ryan, but McCloskey's a world title challenger, European champ,
Owen from Glasgow. Why, when you make a good fight, is it always has to be box office? People pay over £60 a month for Sky, and as soon as a good fight is made, we have to pay £15 for it. This doesn't happen in other sports. You wouldn't see the Champions League final on box office. So why the best fights? And I'm talking top fights such as Froch Groves, and now the cancelled Hey Fury.
Well, Hey Fury wasn't my fight, but I mean, basically, there's a lot of good fights that get made that aren't box office. Sometimes the huge events will be, and really, to be quite brutally honest, what it comes down to is money. Those huge fights, there's not enough money from the broadcaster to make those fights happen without pay-per-view. And the reason being is boxing's not big enough. And when you talk about Champions League, I mean, do you know what BT paid for Champions League? Do you know what Sky paid? That's why you don't have to pay extra. The broadcasters aren't paying that kind of money for boxing. So therefore, the only way the fights can happen of that magnitude is with box office. And I'd rather make them happen than not. If you're talking about bringing in millions of pounds for a fight like Froch Groves, Sky aren't going to sling in millions of pounds in rights fees. BT aren't going to sling in millions of pounds rights fees for one night of boxing. It's just not going to happen until we get to a level where, back in the day where the terrestrial broadcast was paying that type of money, then it's the only model that works. And I'm thinking 2 next year, pay-per-views. It's not, again, if you don't want to buy it, don't buy it. And I understand people saying, it's an extra 15 quid or whatever, but to make those kind of fights and those kind of events, it's essential until the broadcaster starts paying huge rights fees, of which unfortunately we're some time off.
Okay. Daniel Slade, putting the actual sport of boxing aside for a minute, I'm just curious, in this year, has it been a financially good year for Matchroom Boxing? Keep doing what you're doing, can't wait for Feb the 1st.
Yeah, we've had a decent year financially. I mean, don't forget we had the Froch Kessler fight and the Froch Groves fight all in the 1 year, which is the two fights of the year really. We had some ups and we had some downs on our Saturday night fight nights. You know, when you're talking about the show at the XL putting on 16 fights, you know, it's difficult. But because we've signed so many fighters, we've got an obligation to those fighters, and I won't let them down. And I will make sure that we progress them in the right way. And some of them, that means boxing every month or every 5 or 6 weeks. So I've got to do it, and this is an investment to make the sport great again. So, you know, I don't want to be hemorrhaging money, but we are making an investment in the sport. So there'll be times where we will lose big money on shows. Brooks Senchenko, December the 14th, the O2, when we had to add Quig Salinas. I mean, that was a royal kick in the nuts. You know, you're sitting there, you've got Quig Salinas fighting on the hay bill, which is essentially paid for by that show. Then the fight gets cancelled, then you're stuck with a world title fight, which costs a nice few quid, and I've got to add it to a bill that's already in existence in a week. You know, but you do it because you believe in Scott Quigg and you want another world champion and it's a good fight. So you have to swallow your tongue and get it done. Rhymes.
Okay. Michelle Casey, you always go on about crisps that you like but never about chocolates. What's your favourite chocolate? Mine's a 12.
I like 12. I'm a huge chocolate man, like more so than crisps. I've got a problem with chocolate.
So, what's your favourite?
Galaxy, Giant Buttons. Do you know what? Sometimes I go old school though. Like lately, Caramax, Dime Bar.
Caramax ones.
Caramac, Dime Bar.
Do you like toffee? Do you know what I'm on about?
Do I know what you're on about? Toffee. Yeah, I know what toffee is there.
No, you don't know what I'm talking about there. I'm not talking about pieces of toffee, I'm talking about toffee. Do you know what that is?
Is it a code word for something?
No, do you know them little round things you get in the toffee? It's spelled Toffee.
Oh, that thing. Yeah, no, toffee, I think that's called. Yeah, not really. No.
Oh, okay.
Boost. I like a Boost.
Yeah.
Bounty. I like a Bounty. And one thing I always do with my chocolate is take it home and put it in the freezer for about an hour.
Why?
Because mate, when it's cold, it's blinding.
Oh.
I think one of my aims for the new year is to give up chocolate, or try.
Okay, Albert Gulp Roger.
Definitely pronounced correctly.
In your opinion, is
Let me see his name. Albert Gork-Roger. Clearly French.
French?
Gork-Roger. He's from the, I think he must be from the Burgundy region.
You prick. Sorry, Albert. In your opinion, is the financial split the biggest stumbling block to overcoming Froch Groves rematch?
Yes.
As in any scenario where the champion stopped the challenger would get an even smaller slice of the purse. However, has the nature of Groves' performance put him in a position to hold out for more of a beneficial split than in the first fight? Also, a percentage of how much more money do you think the rematch can generate?
Ticket. Good question, good point. It's all down to the split really, to be quite brutally honest. Froch has no problem fighting Groves. Groves has no problem fighting Froch. There's more money in the fight. George was a mandatory challenger before. This time he'd be a voluntary challenger, which gives a greater excuse for a smaller split, but the commercial benefit that Groves now brings to the fight gives him justification for a bigger split. So it's about egos, it's about both fighters understanding that this is the biggest fight out there for both of them right now. But yes, I wouldn't say it's the only thing that's stopping the fight from happening, because Carl has got ambitions of other fights, and that's not to say he doesn't want the Groves fight, because he does. He's still got a bit of a bee in his bonnet about it, but he does like the idea of fighting in Vegas. He does want to fight Andre Ward again, but this is a fight that I'm pushing for. This is a fight that ultimately I think Froch wants. and the biggest stumbling block is the money and the split.
Okay. Paddy Fagan, what is the most ridiculous term or clause you've seen in a contract?
When Darren Barker fought Felix Sturm, the draft said that Sturm had to walk second. I know that doesn't sound like the most ridiculous thing, but I just thought, obviously he's a challenger, and that made me laugh. That was quickly changed.
Audley must have put something in somewhere like...
A lot of stuff about changing rooms and, Again, not blowing our own trumpet, but we're very, very fair. And people think that they're always going to get stitched up, so people will come down and check the change rooms the day before, and I do that, to be fair, when I go to America. But if you ask anyone in the game, our Matchroom look after fighters, home or away, it's second to none. So, but contractually you always try and cover yourself for certain eventualities.
Okay. Jamie Hay, when Stevenson beat Dawson, Bellew seemed to fancy his chances more, but would he have been better off against Dawson?
Probably, because I think Stevenson is very, very good. I'm not sure how much Dawson is technically brilliant, but I'm not sure what he's got left after the Ward fight, and now after the Stevenson fight. Probably have to fancy your chances.
But you were saying for ages, and so was Tony, even before that fight, that you prefer...
Yeah, because Stevenson, he was never regarded as a brilliant fighter. He got knocked out by Darnell Boone. He had a life and death with Don George, who's average. So, you look at Adonis Stevens, you look at Chad Dawson like a year ago, and you go, oh, Adonis Stevenson. Now you look at it and you go, maybe not. Stevenson's getting better and better. So we all felt in the team that Dawson would beat Stevenson, as did most people.
Yeah. Let alone be sparked out in the first round. Luke Staples, recently we have seen a huge increase in the popularity of female MMA since the UFC added a female division. Why isn't female boxing quite catching on, and what steps can be chosen to change that?
Do you know what, I'll be honest again, it just doesn't do anything for me. It's not sexist, it's not women shouldn't be in boxing, they should be at home. I'm not a believer in that. I believe that everyone, whatever anyone wants to do, good luck to them, have a crack, but I just don't think commercially that women's boxing, in different territories prove that I'm wrong. Scandinavia, Germany. I mean, at the Barker fight, there was that women's world title fight. It was absolute dross. I mean, you thought
WBO strawweight title.
Yeah, something like that. But it was absolutely terrible. I mean, it was up there with Bellew Chilemba 1. It was wasn't it hard to watch?
Not really. Callum Ennis. If you had to bet on 5 British boxers to be holding a world title in the next 5 years' time, both Matchroom and non-Matchroom, who would you pick?
In 5 years' time?
Well, between now and 5 years, is it?
What, who aren't already world champions, obviously?
Yeah.
Kell Brook, Anthony Joshua, Callum Smith, Luke Campbell.
You're allowed to pick someone who's not in your stable.
They're all in my stable, aren't they?
Both Matchroom and non-Matchroom. The same.
I don't, not being disrespectful to other fighters, but I don't think that there's other fighters not in our stable that I could particularly stand out and say they will be a world champion. There's some good fighters, but I just don't.
What you could say, Frampton?
Yeah, I believe. No, you're right. I believe Frampton can win a world title. I do believe that.
Scal, Fury, Chisora.
Depends on who they get. But the problem is, I'm not just looking. I'm not saying that looking at those fighters saying they're not good enough to win world titles, because lesser fighters have won world titles. But you go through it and you say Nathan Cleverly, for example, at cruiserweight, and Tony Bellew's got the same problem. Hook, Jones, Hernandez, brilliant fighters, at cruiserweight, big lumps and all. You look at, Frankie Gavin, welterweight, Frankie's a brilliant talent. How's he going to get a shot, let alone a world title fight? How's he going to win a world title? You know, you look at, I don't know, Billy Joe. You know, great young fighter. How's he going to get a shot at the middleweight title? And how's he going to win a middleweight title? You know,
Jared Fletcher got a shot.
No, but he hasn't. It's all bollocks. Jared Fletcher ain't fighting for the world title.
What are you talking about?
Listen, trust me, that fight is not for the world title. Not for the WBA regular, not for the WBA super. That is a defence of the interim title. Don't worry, it'll all come out in the next couple of days. But, you know,
Alright.
it's not that. Martin Murray versus Jared Fletcher is not for the world title. It can't be. And it won't be.
Did they not just announce it at a press conference?
Alright,
Alright.
yeah, I'm just telling you, like, told you, I ain't mincing my words today. That fight shouldn't be for a world title and isn't for a world title.
Okay. Lewis Robles.
What a phone you do, haven't
You have, yeah. Lewis Robles. Any indication of any big shows in Liverpool in the new year? And if so, who will be likely to be fighting on the bill?
March, Tony Bellew, Stephen Smith, Callum Smith, Rocky Fielding, Tom Stalker, maybe even Kell Brook. It's going to be a huge show.
Echo?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Greg Martin, which amateurs can Eddie see making a major impact on the professional scene in the next couple of years?
Do you know what? I know a young kid called Sammy McNess, who's a Repton boy, who's down with Tony Sims, you know, training. He's a quality young fighter. I haven't seen. Sorry about that. I haven't, because sort of my concentration was sort of the class before, if you like. You know, those kids coming through the Olympics that we signed. I haven't really focused too hard on the young amateurs coming through the game. There's some good lads up at the GB team, but you know, there's no one really that we've got an eagle eye on. Obviously, you got Selby, Gamal. They're sort of a bit of the older generation, aren't they? Fred Evans, don't know what he's going to do, but quality young fighters. Doesn't mean they're going to make it as pros, but.
Okay. Tartan Tipster, can you make MacDonald versus Hall rematch next year, or will Skybox Nation situation make it difficult?
Well, if it goes to a purse bid, which essentially it might, because at some point, whether it's in 90 days or whether it's in 6 months, Jamie McDonald will end up being a mandatory for that title. Then it doesn't. Whoever wins the purse bids it will go on the relevant channel. So, but I would think they'll have a voluntary with Hall. I mean, Hall's got a decision now. Does he cash it all in a big fight abroad, in a unification fight, which I would probably advise he do, or does he have? You know, but then again, it's like a domestic fight. He either fights Jay McDonald, or he'll probably fight Paul Butler, or something like that. You know, get slung into that fight. But he, again, like Stuart Hall, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, he done brilliantly to win a world title. He was fortunate to get a shot, but good luck to him, and grabbed it with both hands. Now's the time. You've got to capitalise on that, because Stuart Hall can get beat in a voluntary defence at home for small money, or he can get beat in a huge unification fight where he might make, you know, not 7 figures, but he, you know, dollar wise, he could make a nice chunk, and he deserves that. And now is the time when Stuart Hall's got to set himself up for life, because let's be honest, he's not going to go out, have 3 or 4 defences in unified division. That's the harsh reality. He's got to go out now and capitalise on this opportunity he's got, and capitalise on the wonderful performance he gave to win the world title. And essentially that means make as much money as possible, and bloody good luck to him.
Certainly.
Glad you approve, it means a lot.
Ken Akem. If BT Sport were to enter the boxing, do you see them as major competition to Sky Sports' coverage? And if so, is this a good thing for British boxing?
Listen, more broadcasters showing boxing the better. And it's like, people always say to me, how do you think you're getting on with a battle against Box Nation? You've got a battle against Box Nation. My job is to provide quality programming for Sky. They're a broadcaster. They are not a boxing broadcaster. You don't subscribe to boxing for Sky. There might be some that do, a tiny minority, but you subscribe because of the fantastic all-round content, mainly football, that they deliver. So Sky aren't trying to compete with Box Nation or any other channel that shows boxing. They're just doing an all-round job for their subscribers. I think at some point BT will move into boxing, we even had some chats with them, just random chats talking about all our different sports, prior to our new deal with Sky. So I don't think there's a sort of a rushing strategy for them to get involved in the sport. Their purchase of the Champions League rights will certainly restrict them in other areas. I think at some point they'll do some boxing, but I don't think it's sort of a burning strategy of theirs. But more the merrier, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Mark McFarlane. The great sporting managers always say don't get emotionally attached to the players, as someday you will have to release them, and the closer you are makes it harder to make the right decision. Do you feel in time you will have to do the same regarding your fighters, as you seem to be close to them, but eventually you will have to say to a fighter who is on a losing streak or isn't cutting it that you will have to let him go? But if you're close to him, this will be harder and eventually cost you money in the long run.
Yeah, I know, Mark. That's a good question. Give him some tickets, man. I'm close with a lot of our fighters. Some closer than others because some, you deal with an interim or a manager, or some are self-managed. I will never have any problem with telling any fighter to quit the sport if it's what I think they should do. And I think, one, I'm not a manager, I'm a promoter, but really, I feel as though it's my job and duty to do so. I won't let them down and just bin them off, but I will tell them when I think it's time for them to stop. And I have done in the past with certain fighters. Boxing is a cyclical business, in that fighters come and go. I'm sure in 2014 you'll see some fighters leave Matchroom. Some because they want to leave, some because they're not getting the opportunities, and mostly they want to leave because someone's offered them a deal that probably doesn't exist, but this is the business that you're in. But really, I think we've got a great relationship with our fighters, and I can't help but get emotionally attached because it is a great sport, they are great people, and you're all in it together, pulling together to try and achieve the ultimate dream. And when you get there, or you get close to that, that moment of truth, to the promised land, as I call it, then it gets you, and it got me with Barker, and it got me many other times this year as well. But I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I love my job, and I do love the people that I represent, and that's probably a good thing for the fighters, because the closer I am to you, the harder I'm going to work for you, and I won't stop till we get there, and there's a lot of fighters that I'm very close to all our fighters, some more so than others, but the closer I am, the tougher I'm going to be to stop.